Thank you. We're ready to start the planning meeting. I'm just going to go to Councillor Cadwell, who's actually our planning portfolio holder for Council.
Councillor Howard. Thanks everyone for joining us today. My name is Melissa Cadwell. I'm the Deputy Chair of the Planning Committee. Councillors, I'd like to nominate Councillor Harwood to chair tonight's Planning Committee meeting. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor. Yep, thank you, Councillor Hathaway. All those in favour? Item is carried. Thank you, councillors. Councillor Harwood will now chair the remainder of the meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Cadwell. Thank you for coming on this evening for, part two of this particular hearing. That's okay. There's, we've been well versed in what's occurred thus far, and which finds us here this evening to hear this matter and hopefully make a decision accordingly. I'd like to start by acknowledging the Wadawurrung people, the traditional owners of the land, waterways and skies. We pay our respects to the elders past, present and emerging. We acknowledge all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are part of our greater Geelong community today. Our panel members from the left, Councillor Aiken, Councillor Nelson, Councillor Hathaway, apologies, Councillor Harwood, Councillor Cadwell, Councillor Murray and Councillor Maloney. Our officers with us this evening are Clara Gartland, Rory O'Loughlin, John Rush and Joanne Van Slageren. Any apologies for this evening other than councillors who couldn't be here? Of conflict of interest, any should be noted. Please raise them if they do become prevalent. Confirmation of the minutes of the Planning Committee meeting held on the 16th of August may please be confirmed. Was anyone present for those? Can I just go to the confirmation of the minutes of the 16th of August? Do we need to? We do? I'm not too sure what members on this committee was actually at. You were there? And was any other councillors at that particular meeting? Move Councillor Maloney, seconded Councillor Murray. Those in favour? Thank you. The procedure for the hearing tonight is the officers will present a brief summary of the written report of the committee. The panel may ask questions of the officers. The submitters will detail their concerns to the committee. 3 minutes is their allotted time. The panel may ask questions of the objectors submitters. The applicant will detail their application and respond to any concerns to the committee. 5 to 10 minute time limit. The panel may ask questions of the applicant. The panel will further discuss the application and make a decision. The decision of this committee is the final decision of the council acting under delegated authority. If anyone is aggrieved with the decision by the committee, they may appeal to the Victorian Civil and Administrative Tribunal in Melbourne. Our staff can assist with the process during office hours. All right, matters for consideration is PP 1550 2021 127 to 165 Hills Road, Corio. So we'll start with the officers' presentation. Thank you.
Planning permit PP 1550 2021 seeks approval for a multi-lot industrial subdivision. The proposal is for 13-lot subdivision at the 14
Sorry. Could you just take the microphone a bit closer? Just so we can hear down here. Thank you.
Yep, sorry. So the planning permit seeks approval for a multi-lot subdivision for 13 lots on the 14.9 hectare site with an average lot size of 1.07 hectares. As a way of background, the application has previously been presented to Council at the Planning Committee meeting held on the 23rd of March 2023. As crucial information was provided the afternoon of the meeting from WorkSafe, along with the assertion from the permit applicant that Viva Energy had verbally confirmed that they were withdrawing their objection, a decision was deferred. Council officers recommend refusal of the planning permit application as it has direct conflict with state and local planning policy, the Industrial 2 Zone and the Design and Development Overlay Schedule 8. The site is identified as strategically important to be used for heavy intensive uses that cannot be located elsewhere, and the proposed lot size will not support this. Further, it increases the risk to human life due to the proximity to a major hazard facility. The site is located to the south of Heels Road in the industrial area known as the Geelong Ring Road Employment Precinct. It is surrounded by other industrial uses, including truss factories, chemical manufacturing facilities, the use and distribution of shipping containers, medical waste treatment and disposal, and notably the Lara LPG terminal, which is licensed as a major hazard facility. The Lara LPG terminal is located approximately 170 metres north of the site and is also accessed from Heels Road. The site is within 3 metres of a high-pressure gas pipeline that runs along McManus Road. The GREP encompasses 500 hectares of land zoned for a mix of Industrial 1 zone and Industrial 2 zone, providing the largest industrial estate within the municipality. It is one of the few industrial estates within Victoria that provide for large lot availability on land covered by the Industrial Zone 2. The site is within the Industrial 2 zone and covered by the Design and Development Overlay Schedule 18. The purpose of the Industrial 2 zone is to support large-scale intensive industrial uses. These uses require significant setbacks from sensitive uses. It does not encourage the use of the land for less intensive uses that can occur elsewhere. Design and Development Overlay Schedule 18 identifies the site as being within the GREP. The purpose of the GREP is to attract industrial uses promoted for its excellent access to a range of transport and zoning for all industrial purposes, including intensive uses that cannot be located elsewhere, and having clear development guidelines. Clear development guidelines are important for large intensive uses as they require substantial setbacks to operate their business. When sites are smaller, they cannot achieve these setbacks as they cannot control what occurs on neighbouring lots. The GREP framework plans located in the scheme under clause 17011L2 nominates 3 precincts which have different purposes and minimum lot size. The subject site is in precinct 1, which has a minimum lot size of 5 hectares. As discussed, the proposed 1.07 average size lot is a substantial discrepancy from the planning policy. Precinct 1A allows for 1 hectare lots, while Precinct 2 allows for minimum lot sizes of 2,000 square metres. The application was referred internally, and our engineering department were not satisfied that the application has demonstrated that the proposal can manage waste storm water. It relies on a council managed waste basin, but this has not been confirmed that it's able to accommodate the proposal. The strategic team do not support the application due to conflicts with the purpose of the GREP and framework plan. They noted that the industrial land assessment report provided by the applicant states that in Greater Geelong, demand for large allotments over 2 hectares are only available in the GREP. Interest in this lot size has been variable, but appetite appears to be growing slowly, primarily because this product is unavailable elsewhere within the municipality. This would point to a need for more rather than less medium-sized industrial allotments. I note that we have received updated referral responses from WorkSafe that were received on the 23rd of March, where they have provided conditions that they would recommend to be included if a planning permit was issued. Viva Energy have also objected to the application, but also provided conditions to be included on a permit should the application be supported, but I will discuss these in further detail. Council officers have assessed the application against the zone and overlay and applicable planning policy. The application is in direct conflict with clear planning policy. Firstly, the proposal does not recognise the strategic importance of maintaining 5 hectare lots. The subject site is located within the Industrial 2 zone, which identifies it as suitable for high-intensive industrial uses that are not able to occur within the Industrial 1 zone. Further, the site is located in Precinct 1 of the GREP, which further identifies it as suitable for 5 hectare lot sizes to accommodate larger industrial uses. We note that industrial uses have not been proposed as part of this subdivision, however, would submit that small lot sizes generally attract lighter industrial uses, which are able to occur in the Industrial 1 zone. The proposed subdivision of this site would remove the potential for the site to be used for more intensive industrial uses, which were not able to operate without significant buffers from sensitive uses. The proposed lot sizes are considered to be inconsistent with economic development policy, industrial policy, and the GREP framework plan. State policy in relation to a diversified economy includes the objective to protect and strengthen existing and planned employment areas and planned for new employment areas, and to facilitate regional cross-border inter-regional relationships to harness emerging economic opportunities. The current proposal undermines the GREP, which is a planned employment area. Our local policy for diversified economy encourages regional and national scale industrial businesses to locate in the southern part of the Geelong Ring Road and Employment Precinct. As mentioned above, the proposal will not encourage intensive national scale businesses to locate to the GREP. In relation to the GREP, obviously it is in conflict with that. In regards to state planning policy for industrial land supply, this includes to provide an adequate supply of industrial land in appropriate locations, including sufficient stocks of large sites for strategic investment, protect and carefully plan existing industrial areas to, where possible, facilitate further industrial development. We also include local industrial land supply policy, which notes to provide sufficient industrial land to meet a range of industrial needs in Geelong, including small to medium-sized industry. In relation to sustainable industry as well, we do not consider that the proposal is consistent because it includes strategies to ensure that industrial activities requiring substantial threshold distances are located at the core of industrial areas. That was state policy. We also have local policy in relation to this to facilitate well-designed and serviced industrial development that provides a high level of amenity for workers and visitors, direct industries that require substantial buffer distances from sensitive land uses to the core of the Industrial 2 zone in the Geelong Ring Road Employment Precinct. And in relation to this, the City completed an industrial land supply report in 2018 and found that to a large extent, the industrial areas are substitutable to each other, particularly in industrial precincts, except for the GREP, which is strategically planned for large industrial sites. Finally, the application is at odds with, due to its proximity to a major hazard facility. As has been submitted, the site is 170 metres from the Lara LPG terminal and 3 metres from the high-pressure gas pipeline. Both these present a significant risk to human life. As has been submitted, small lot sizes will generally attract a higher worker population. This in turn will increase the risk to life in the event of a major hazard, an incident from the major hazard facility. Risks associated with a major hazard facility include, but are not limited to, chemicals, spillage and leakage, explosion or fire. We would also note that increasing the worker population to this area may impact the ongoing viability of the Lara LPG terminal, as they are responsible for reducing the risk to the surrounding area as much as reasonably practical. The objective of Clause 13042S, major hazard facilities, is to minimise the potential for human and property exposure to risk from incidents that may occur at a major hazard facility and to ensure the ongoing viability of the existing hazard facility. The proposed plan of subdivision will create 13 individually owned and operated lots. This increases the risk to the occupants of the site. Further, 5 of the lots will access from Heels Road, which will result in, to exit the site, going closer to the high major hazard facility. As discussed, we have received updated responses from Viva Energy and WorkSafe, which have included conditions that they would suggest be placed on any planning permit which is issued. So WorkSafe have identified 2 aspects of the area from their classifications of an inner safety area and the outer safety area. So these contain restrictive conditions that would require assistance in understanding what is permitted in these sites. For example, to have a low population density industrial bulk storage use only, population density in line with normal working population as per WorkSafe guidance, land use planning near a major hazard facility. And these were also supported by Viva Energy to include these restrictions for any planning permit that is issued. However, we would not consider that the application is now consistent with the objective of clause 1304(2)(s), major hazard facility, which is to minimise the potential for human and property exposure to risk from incidents that may occur at a major hazard facility, nor that we would view these conditions as indicating that WorkSafe or Viva Energy support this application. The conditions provided are onerous and vague of the approved uses. The conditions significantly reduce the uses that the land can be used for, and future owners will not have a clear idea of what they can use the land for until they have consulted with the city, WorkSafe and Viva Energy. And they do not indicate that the application should be supported. It is therefore the recommendation that the application refused due to significant inconsistencies with long-term strategic planning of the area, stormwater management concerns and risks to human life associated with the proximity to the major hazard facility that cannot be appropriately mitigated.
I'm just going to make an observation. It was difficult to follow without having the notes on it, to follow the whole summary. So we'll probably discuss that as we go along, but I just found it difficult to follow the whole without actually having notes to follow. And anyway, I guess you get my point. Sorry, Councillor Aiken, you were going to make a comment of sorts? Or?
It was just in relation to the WorkSafe letter and the Viva letter, if that's possible, Mr Chair. I'd just like to ask confirmation. Both Viva's withdrawn their refusal. Or
Correct. They have not advised against refusing the application, but they have not used the term they withdraw their objection, which they have to do in writing to withdraw an objection.
we advise them of that technicality, because the letter from the executive director actually says that no longer maintains the application should be refused. So it's a bit confusing if the letter's giving me advice as a decision maker that we shouldn't refuse it, but if there's an objection still sitting in the system, did we point out to Viva to say that it is conflicting if they've advised us not to refuse it, but there's an objection still in the planning process?
Well, I spoke to their lawyer yesterday, and they know what is in the letter and what it means.
I beg your pardon?
Oh, I have spoken to their lawyer as well, so they're familiar with what the letter says and what it means.
Well, I'd like to be familiar and understand it as well, but I'm going to quote what Councillor Aikens just said, that it no longer maintains the application should be refused. So how are we to take that?
An objection, and if they want to withdraw the objection, we want the words to say, withdraw the objection.
I know that's planning language. What my question is, did we say that to Viva? That did someone communicate to them after receiving this letter saying that, because they're advising us as a decision maker to actually say that it no longer maintains that the application should be refused. So that's their language. Our planning language is you should withdraw your objection. So what am I supposed to believe, their language or our language? And if we haven't, I suppose my question is, did we say to them it's conflicting? Because the letter's telling us as a decision maker that not to refuse their application now.
It's not saying not to, it's just saying their position has changed, but they do still have that objection there.
Essentially, I read this letter saying that if these conditions are met, don't refuse the application, and we request these conditions to approve a planning permit. Now, if there's a technicality that they haven't advised the planning department to withdraw their application, did we say that to them? And if we didn't,
Sorry, we did have more of a general discussion rather than those words.
Yeah, because essentially they've got a foot in both camp, and it's confusing based on that, the letter. Yeah.
Hello. Yeah, just to put my 2 cents on this as well, because I was a bit confused by that line. And then there's a caveat, I guess, in the second last sentence that says, if both the work-safe conditions and Viva's conditions are included in any planning permit, Viva Energy will not press its objection. So I've interpreted that as the objections on the table, pending what comes out of this. And Viva understand that their objection hasn't been withdrawn.
That's right, but it is however, if WorkSafe and Viva's conditions are included in an application, they withdraw their objection.
Yeah.
So
I guess what I would interpret not press their objection is appeal the decision to Viva.
Usually the terminology that they still have the right to appeal.
Correct. And
so that's why they don't withdraw their objection. They want to see their conditions placed in it, so they hang on and leave their objection there, and then they won't appeal. So that's
been taken in consideration for our position as the planning authority, that we are acknowledging that change of position by Viva, or we're not?
Well, we are, in that we've put those conditions, as we discussed at the first panel, into the alternate recommendations so that they are there. They were not in any alternate before because we weren't aware of them. But we are aware of those views, and that's why we deferred the panel, so that we could get that clarification about the conditions. But from our point of view, it still would be a notice of decision, because the objections, while they're still there, they won't press them to appeal.
Thank you, Jo. Look, I think I'm understanding now.
It is confusing,
Yeah.
I do agree.
Cadwell.
Thank you. I was going to ask some further questions, but I actually think that with Clara's comments around Viva understanding what they've outlined in the letter, and also understanding the context of what they've written and the operating environment they're working in, and the explanation that Joanne's provided, I think that kind of makes it clear that Viva don't want to say that they're withdrawing their application, but they do want to put some caveats on it so that they have the right of appeal. So I don't know if that helps clarify or crystallise anything, but it does make Viva's fairly ambiguous approach on this clear.
But could I add something to this conversation, please? We've had engagement with Viva leading up to the hearing, which was centred entirely around them withdrawing their objection. What you see here is hiding behind wording that clearly says they intend to withdraw their objection. They don't use the word withdraw, but they're saying they're not going to prosecute the case around their objection if conditions are included. This is just a farce in terms of saying that there's still an objection. They've clearly put pen to paper that's had a lawyer's review that says we don't have issues with this application if you've got conditions on a permit. That's unequivocal. We're also talking about WorkSafe and whether or not they've withdrawn their objection. I think it's important for the councillors to be aware that WorkSafe never used the words we object. They use the words we advise against or we advise for. And I think you need to read their latest letter which says we do not advise against. So in both instances, you've got two objectors which have clearly stated their position that subject to conditions, they don't object to this application.
The Chair, second question is the WorkSafe letter. I do apologise, why is WorkSafe saying following discussions with Royden Grain Services, and then they go on to say they don't have objections? Is Royden Grain a neighbouring neighbour to this, or is Royden Grain the applicant? Because I'm confused that why would WorkSafe be writing to a neighbour saying we're following discussions with Royden Grain Services? Can someone clarify what Royden Grain Services involvement in this is, please?
No, I'm not sure.
And Councillor Aiken, if you like, through the chair. So Reardon Grain is a business that forms part of the entity that owns the property, so they form part of the ownership group.
Okay, that's fine. That explains why, because they are a neighbour as well too. In terms,
yes.
So they had discussions with WorkSafe as the proponent, and then WorkSafe have responded the way they have. That's okay. I just wanted to get clarification of that. Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions of the planning staff? No? Thank you.
Councillor Harwood. I'll just start with a couple of matters around procedure. We appreciate that we've got two new councillors in the room tonight that didn't form part of the original committee that considered this the first time, but we're a bit disappointed we're here prosecuting the same case again. Council have already considered this matter at their meeting in March, noting that there are two additional attendees. The meeting minutes reflect two very clear things happening at that meeting. One was the original motion to refuse this application was lost. The second was a motion was moved to defer the matter to allow officers to consider conditions. Now that's what we say we're here tonight to do, is to consider the conditions of WorkSafe and Viva, not to consider this whole matter again. 75% or more of this committee agreed that the motion to refuse this application should not proceed. As stated by Councillor Caldwell during the hearing, the further convening of the Planning Committee would simply allow the ability to assess how the planning officers have incorporated those conditions onto a planning permit, and to confirm the withdrawal of Viva's objection, which you've heard the ambiguity around wording here tonight, but as far as we're concerned, it's absolutely unequivocal. They don't intend to maintain their objection subject to conditions being withdrawn. This matter's taken 6 months to get back to a planning committee hearing, and to hear that the council now consider this not to be a withdrawal objection is incredibly disappointing, and we think this is a matter that should have been raised with us or Viva, as suggested by Councillor Aiken. As confirmed in the Council Officer's report, WorkSafe have provided conditions and no longer advise against the approval of the application. Furthermore, Viva have withdrawn their objections subject to both the WorkSafe conditions and their own conditions being included. The Officer's report makes no mention of a set of draft conditions being provided to us as the applicant, yet we have reviewed a draft planning permit and we confirm our acceptance of all planning permit conditions, particularly those put forward by WorkSafe and Viva. We therefore respectfully submit to the Council that they don't need to hear this matter again in full, but rather the committee simply consider those conditions. Nonetheless, I'm now in a position where you've heard the full case from Council, so I might as well go through the merits of the application as well. On the topic of investment, jobs and stimulating growth, many councillors in the room will be aware that the GREP was formerly known as the Hills Road Industrial Estate, and in 2001 underwent a comprehensive study into industrial land supply across the municipality. Over 20 years have passed since that, and a take-up of 5 hectare allotments within this precinct has been minimal during that time. We respect the need for long-term strategic planning. However, good planning also means reviewing your approach to determine if it meets market demands. With the lack of take-up, we submit that this demonstrates a clear misalignment between the market demands for lot sizes and heavy industries and what they're looking for. This proposal seeks to provide an alternative offering to the market where a clear demand has been demonstrated. On the topic of industrial land supply, we submitted an industrial land assessment prepared by Urban Enterprise, who are a trusted consultant of council, often doing work on their own DCPs, doing their own land studies, so they're a respected consultant in the space. That assessment demonstrated a clear shortfall of market-ready land stocks in the order of 1 hectare, which is a product that currently has incredibly high demand, not only in Geelong but across the state. Council officers note that the industrial 2-zone land is rare. However, as demonstrated in the industrial land assessment, there's 176 hectares remaining within the GREP alone. There is additional industrial 2-zone land in the municipality. This equates to 35 5-hectare lots remaining within the precinct. The subject site has the potential to provide 3 5-hectare lots. If you approve this application, it represents a 7.9% reduction in 5-hectare lots being provided in the GREP. Small in anyone's language. If this application is not supported, the clear demand will go unmet and new businesses will not be able to be accommodated, thereby restricting investment, jobs growth and market competition. Any suggestion that smaller lots cannot accommodate heavy industries is simply untrue. One example alone in the GREP is the operations of Veolia. They operate on a 1-hectare site, only a short distance east of this property, with a land use that is such that it requires significant buffers from sensitive land uses and is overseen by EPA regulations. On the matter of orderly planning and consistency with the GREP framework plan, we would simply note, as a starting point alone, that the GREP has a 1,000 metre buffer around its outer edge. So when the officers talk about the need to provide for buffers from heavy industries, you could take a heavy industry right up to the edge of this precinct and you'd still have sufficient buffers to protect sensitive land uses from those. We're talking about a development that's happening within the core of this precinct, and the suggestion that you can't have heavy industries on 1-hectare lots, there's no evidence before you to suggest that that's actually the case. You've heard before when we were here in March that the minimum lot size requirement is not a mandatory requirement. If it was such that council wanted to be so dogmatic about the application of this lot size, it should have been made mandatory. But if you need evidence that it is mandatory, I'll just circulate some documents for the councillors to look at. Okay. So to give councillors some evidence that this is not a mandatory condition, what the top plan here shows you is the application area in red, and the site that you see in the blue box immediately southeast of the site is land that sits within precinct 1, which is for 5-hectare lots. Now if you go to the second plan, you'll see there again our application area in red, but you'll also see a yellow boundary and a green boundary for 2 lots that are less than 5 hectares. So there's already evidence here that council have issued a permit immediately next door for lots less than 5 hectares. As demonstrated on this plan, the application area provides a natural extension of the 1-hectare lots. If you go back to this first plan that I've handed out to you councillors, you'll see that the, let's call it the lime green colour, sits immediately south and east of our application area. In terms of if there were to be a natural extension of 1-hectare lots, this is the site to be doing it. Now, if there's any suggestion that there's going to be a precedence set within the GREP through this application, we'd say, well, few sites would represent a natural extension of the 1-hectare precinct like ours does. Additionally, we provided an urban design assessment prepared by our office, which detailed analysis of the urban design guidelines associated with the GREP, which demonstrated that all urban design measures can still be met on these smaller lots. And I know you'll have a copy of our subdivision plan there in front of you. You'll note that there's landscaping buffers along Hills Road, also along McManus Road. These are all measures that were built into those design guidelines and we can meet those easily. This proposal has demonstrated how it can offer a natural evolution of the GREP plan simply by not meeting the minimum lot size does not mean that an orderly planning outcome has not been achieved. I'll touch now on the major hazard facility matter. A key tenet of this issue has really been around the concept that smaller lots somehow automatically mean more people are going to be on this site. Again, similar to the concept that heavy industries can't establish themselves on 1 hectare lots. There's absolutely no evidence before the council that says there's going to be more people on this site. That's just a natural assumption that's been made by the office in informing this opinion. We've put that question to both council and WorkSafe about how they've established that view, and no one can offer us an answer because it's a difficult number to put your finger on. Nonetheless, we've, through our engagement with WorkSafe, said we're accepting of conditions that meet the low employee threshold. I can't recall the exact words that WorkSafe have used, but we've said we're absolutely willing to work with them on that, because at the end of the day, this isn't intended to be anything other than something that provides a differing lot product for heavy industry. There was some suggestion that we've got access out to Hills Road and that somehow is a risk for tenants or future workers. Again, we can change the subdivision design quite easily to get access all from Prosperity Drive, so we don't need to go out to Hills Road. The position of WorkSafe and Viva by withdrawing any opposition subject to permit conditions should tell councillors everything they need to know. Both the operator of a major hazard facility and the authority who advises government and councils on such matters have confirmed their acceptance of the proposal subject to conditions. As stated earlier, we've reviewed the updated submissions from both agencies as well as the draft planning permit conditions, and we confirm our acceptance of all conditions which are entirely acceptable and not at all onerous on the developer. The council should entirely disregard this ground of refusal, and it's disappointing that the council officers have not sought to do the same in light of the updated documents. Finally, on the matter of stormwater issues, this matter really took us by surprise, given the engineering referral comments that informed this grounds of refusal were never provided to us. These comments were provided in July 2022, and until we asked for them after the March meeting, that's the first time we'd seen them. So we're not really afforded an opportunity to respond to this issue. We also submitted a flood impact assessment on the 1st of August 2022, which we've had no response to. We don't even know if council's engineers have seen it. So as far as we're concerned, this is a moot issue. Nonetheless, since receiving those comments, we've been away, we've spoken with our project engineer and traffic consultants, and we've confirmed that the stormwater treatment can be achieved in accordance with both best practice and the overall strategy for the GREP. Furthermore, the roads can accommodate movements for B-doubles and achieve the required widths nominated by Council's Engineering Department. We submit to the committee that this issue is either already resolved or easily resolved through draft permit conditions, which we've both reviewed and agreed to. Thank you.
Comments for the applicant?
Just for clarification for myself, so the applicant is supportive to enter into a 173 agreement with Viva Energy? Yep. And the applicant is also supportive of the inner safety requirements to reduce down to an 11 lot size and the conditions that have been requested by WorkSafe as well too, if the council accepts an alternative recommendation.
That's correct, we are.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
Any questions or comments at this point? None? Okay. Thank you. Opportunity to discuss the application and make any comments as we may see fit before we go into a potential voting process. So any comments to be made from the panel? Mr. Aiken, do you wish to say anything or no? I'm just going to make a couple of quick comments just in relation to what we've heard this evening. I think for me, I understand where the planning department is coming from, our council planning department is coming from to try, I guess, maintain the current line where they believe it's best drawn to, I guess, attract industry out to the GREP. The whole purpose of the GREP is to become a high high-end economic development stimulus part of the region. And to date, we've had some success, but still a considerable amount of land out there to be taken up by the market. And this is where I think it gets a bit tricky, because the market's not responding to our current offering, particularly in the smaller 1 hectare lots. This particular proposal, to my mind, is offering that on a relatively smallish scale, given what's still in existence and potentially available out in the GREP. It would mean jobs for the north. It would provide a further economic stimulus and development for the north and for the GREP area. So to my mind, the offering of differing lot choice is something that the market is asking for. There's not a lot that I'm aware of out there for 1 hectare lots. And so they're just my views on the presentation thus far. But if no one else has any other comments at all, I'll go to Councillor Aiken if you wish to provide a alternate.
Look, I'm happy to move the alternative recommendation, which is that the responsible planning following having considered all matters within the Planning Environment Act requires to consider, decides to issue a notice of decision to grant a planning permit for a multi-lot subdivision at 125, 127 to 165 Hills Road, Corio, generally in accordance with the plans and documentation submitted by the applicant, subject to the following conditions. Now, I won't read out those conditions. I understand you probably have seen them. Is that right? So the conditions of the alternative recommendation are essentially embracing requirements of what the officers have advised, and also the requests of Viva Energy and WorkSafe as well too, which you've acknowledged that you, the applicant, is prepared to accept as well too. So it covers the original concerns that were raised with the application, and I agree with Councillor Harwood's comments as well too in terms of the strategic nature of this development. It is good to have the diversity that is clearly needed out there. That site, the GRIP, is actually a legacy project that's now been in for over 30 years. The opportunity to actually create diversity of industrial opportunities with the smaller lot sizes, I think the market will embrace, and ultimately it will provide the original plans that were associated with the GRIP, which was to be the Geelong Regional Employment Project, and it certainly will provide those opportunities if the land is able to be developed in such a way. And I thank both Viva and WorkSafe for actually improving the quality of the outcome decision, and recognising that they have been gracious in trying to work out how they could actually support the application, not actually just saying no. Yeah.
I apologise, I should have asked for a seconder prior, but I believe Councillor Nelson was seconding. So do you have any comments to make at this?
No, just to reinforce. Sorry, with regard to providing jobs out in the north, and to reinforce what you said with regard to 1,000 people on a single site there and only 200 on. We support the alternative.
The alternate recommendation to the vote. Those in favour? Carried. If you came along this evening, appreciate your time, and hopefully we have a resolution. Thank you.